I make this video before a very pivotal point in the time of Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm making this video somewhat as a plea, which I'll get into, but I have to give a little bit of background for those who aren't familiar with the Jehovah's Witness teachings and to kind of catch them up. So my fellow apostate comrades can just go ahead and skip past this part and get to my plea. The generation of 1914 has been a core teaching of Jehovah's Witnesses for nearly 100 years at this point. The gist of the teaching is that Jesus returned in 1914 to the throne invisibly in heaven. Now, the big thing is that the generation that saw that, the generation that was around when that happened, is the generation that will by no means pass away that Jesus spoke of in Matthew. For nearly 100 years now, Jehovah's Witnesses have been preaching the end is near, all because this generation is dying off year after year. All of my life, I heard, "Oh, Tim, how wonderful it will be to be a child who has no idea what it's like to grow up in this wicked old system of things." And, "Tim, you'll never make it to grade school before the end comes. Tim, you'll never see high school because the end will be here before that ever happens. And why are you looking at colleges, Tim? You know the end will be here before that happens." Or, "Come on, Tim, why would you want to have children in this system when the end is just so close?" My parents' generation heard the same thing, and you know what? So did their parents. For 3 generations now, we've heard that the end is so very close. Every waking moment is spent dwelling and hoping that the end is going to come in the next month, the next year, the next decade. And every month goes by, every year goes by, every decade goes by, and at this point, every century goes by without a problem. This is where our pivotal point comes in. An outline for the district convention talk has been leaked, and it's on the WTComments channel on YouTube. I'm linking below, and it's below for basically every channel at this point. The key word is contemporary here. I want you to focus on contemporary and what exactly that means when I explain the concept. The term generation has been redefined. No longer is it specifically the generation of 1914, but it includes contemporaries who were alive with the generation of 1914 that discerned the signs that Jesus returned and are anointed. Let's use an example here to illustrate just what that means. Let's say that there's a 4-year-old child, and they're an especially alert and aware 4-year-old child that somehow understands the signs of the time of the end in 1914. Let's say this child is also lucky enough to live a very full life. They get on Willard Scott's Smucker's Jam bottle and live to the ripe old age of 100. That would mean they lived until this year. So conceivably here, my month-old son Tyler, provided he becomes anointed, is now the generation that will by no means pass away before the end comes. This change in the plan effectively makes the generation that will by no means pass away last conceivably until 2110 and beyond. If my son lives that same long lifespan of 100 years or more, this teaching can now never be disproven in our lifetimes. The Jehovah's Witnesses will be able to point to a future date for the rest of our lives, the rest of our children's lives. It could even be for the rest of your grandchildren's lives, and maybe even the rest of your great-grandchildren's lives. This ensures the existence of this religion, the continuation of this teaching for decades to come. This change allows the Watchtower to not just get your donations, but your great-grandchildren's donations. May is convention season. The district conventions start this month, and this talk will be delivered. This is where you make your choice. This is the most important choice in your life. This is the most important choice literally for the next century. Do you accept this change and let the mantra, "the end is near," prattle on for another century? Think about your grandparents who didn't save for retirement because the end was just so near. Think about your parents who didn't go to college because the end was so near. Think about your uncles and aunts that didn't have children because the end was so near. Think about your friends right now that are pioneering right now instead of getting married because the end is so near. Don't leave the decision in your children's hands, and don't take the easy road to continue the facade for the generations to come to have to clean up your mess. Make your decision now, right now. This convention, You can see what the future holds this convention and draw a line in the sand and say, enough is enough. I will not allow my children to waste their lives on a teaching that makes them believe there is no tomorrow because the end is so near. I will not allow them to teach their children and my great-grandchildren. One person can make a difference here. Just you making the decision to not believe the change and not go with the flow and not agree with this talk can affect 100 years worth of your family's history. If you agree to this talk, you are handing this parasite off to your children so they can leech off a new generation's hopes and dreams for generations to come, all by simply standing up and clapping. Go to the district convention, get your hotel, put on your suit and tie, put on your dress, pin your badge to your chest, and listen to the talk in rapt, uninterrupted attention, because I want you to make a decision if you want to be a revolutionary or an enabler. Do you want to invoke change, or do you want to enable an organization to enslave you and your children, and your children's children, and your children's children's children? I want you to think about what this change means. I want you to think about what this change will do for the future. Then I want you to ask yourself, what if this was any other religion? What if you were speaking to someone of another faith that is having the same situation occurring? What would you tell them? Would it sound something like this? I know it's a cliche, but the reason cliches are cliches is because they're true. You've got to stand up for something, or you're liable to fall for anything.